Welcome to another Bitcoin bonus episode. I'm having so much fun doing these because Andrew Themeles is here, and we just have the best time doing this. I don't know, it's so much fun. So it's not financial advice, guys. We are just two dudes, and we're riffing and chatting. This is for entertainment purposes, but definitely research this stuff, and hopefully, if you're enthusiastic like we are, have a good time with it. Andrew's here.
Andrew's here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here and allowing me to have you, sir. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Dude. So what's going on with Bitcoin? Because it's been pretty exciting watching it go from when people made fun of me and said it's not going above 20,000 to now it's in the 50s, and I'll still see people posting memes of Warren Buffett saying it's going nowhere. I'm like, it's already outperformed like so much stuff.
I think I've outperformed Warren Buffett this year. So I don't know if that makes me better than Warren Buffett. I don't know how much time you need, because it's like if it's boxing, you knock him out, now you're the champ. You don't need to win. You don't need to be the champ for 10 years to be the champ.
Yeah, just in one good knockout, and
the people's eyes, that's something else. But technically,
yeah, I'm competing with myself, is what I would say if I was a boxer.
Yeah,
or anything else.
Yeah,
the realtor that competes with himself.
There you go. And shouldn't you only be competing with yourself, John?
Right. I think so at the end of the day.
Otherwise, let's put the lesson at the beginning of the episode in case they don't get to the end. They can at least get the lesson.
That's the lesson, dude. Yeah. For those of you living a fast-paced life, you just had a whole bucket of coffee. You don't have time for this whole episode. Let's just fast forward, give you the summary. Don't compete with yourself.
Oh, we just said compete with yourself. Anyways,
oh, yeah, only compete with yourself. Oh, shit, I fucked up the summary. I'm so sorry, guys. I am so sorry. Hopefully you listened long enough to find out that was wrong. That was a trick. It's a test.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I think what's happening with Bitcoin is exactly what we said would happen to Bitcoin. And by we, I mean the community of people who believe that did then and still believe it's going to continue to deflate in price.
Yeah.
Is what we're all after.
Yeah.
Escaping the inflation. Since we've last talked, I believe that was October?
I think so. Maybe. God, has it been that long since we talked?
It was certainly before November.
Dude. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah. Since we last talked. Go on.
Certainly. So last week, 1.9 trillion, or right now, $1.9 trillion being negotiated in the stimulus. $5 trillion has been printed this year. It's an astronomical amount. If you look at a chart, it's staggering. So that's you have to understand inflation.
Yeah.
And what Jeff Booth has a book called The Price of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's really just about the dangers of inflation. And that's I think we say dangerous because if you want to say that it's dangerous to not wear a seatbelt as a cause and effect, well, it's dangerous to constantly be inflating the money supply, decreasing the spending value, power of the dollar. And so individuals who are trying to play catch up, they're always going to be just out of reach. But I think the obvious truth, I'm beyond the sad emotion, but it still says just the powers that be, the people that do it, they know what's happening.
They do know, so they understand. This is no good.
Of course, they're not. They're not. They're smarter than me.
Are they though? I used to think they were smarter than you and me. Then I became an adult, and I was like, "Oh, most of us are idiots." I thought adults were really smart.
It hurt me a little to say that because I didn't believe it. But I read today, and I apologize for looking down at my phone. I'm going to pull up. I saw
This isn't a video podcast, dude. You can look at your phone. We could be naked here if we wanted to. I mean, I took a picture of us for the Instagram, but
all right. Well, let me take my clothes back off. Let me see. Really crazy article. It wasn't much, but maybe I think it was Wall Street Journal. And usually they're not too bad with this stuff, but it was just say finally we can get back to the proper amount of inflation. It was the headline. I'm going that's like saying the proper amount of slavery. What are you talking about? Shut up.
You're an inflation is it an abolish?
It's intrinsically abolish. Sure. It's intrinsically it's one of the worst parts about fiat currency.
Fiat currency, yeah.
Currency, meaning money that's not backed by anything. We came off the gold standard in 71. Nixon took us off. And you just look at, if you don't even need, and listen, there's questions as to up to that point how represented the dollar was versus the gold it was backed by. But like, even with the guys at that point, it was a lot healthier than after. And you just see the amount that the money supply has gone up. So the biggest thing that you have to understand about how people get rich is assets. That's it. It's just assets. Because
I agree. Yeah.
If let's just call this the jungle now. Everything's gone. The jungle. What's of value? What would you fight over? Land. Okay, so land.
Because they're not making more of it. I mean, you just mentioned inflation and fiat currency.
Did I just try and bring up the importance of land to a real estate agent? I'm very sorry.
No, you and I both have equal. This is America, damn it. We both have the same level of being able to claim the importance of land. No, dude, I mean, you brought up fiat currency, you bring up inflation, and land being the first one is so they're not making more of it. That's the old quote. I forgot. An old wise man or woman made that quote a long time ago.
There's two types of land. There's valuable land and sought after land. And I think about this all the time where I think about, put it this way. Really, really wealthy people don't live in the city. They have an apartment in the city. Mm-hmm. Now, if their job has them there all the time, mm-hmm. right? And then you're the head of J.P. Morgan. Even those guys are outside. But anyways, my point is, or let's just say you're Leonardo DiCaprio and you want to live in New York City. Yeah, you've got a sick life. Jerry Seinfeld lives in New York City.
Great example, yeah.
But outside of that, most people have rolling hills where there's a well with those water that comes out of the earth, so they don't have to worry about it coming from the city, coming through the plant. They have resources. They have places that they can actually plant things. There's food, there's trees, there's land. What was that movie, Far and Away? I never even saw it, but they're all just racing for the land.
Oh yeah, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. Yeah,
that's why America was just this it's the Garden of Eden. It was the Garden of Eden, to a lot of people who are coming from crowded-ish Europe and whatnot. So good land. So L.A. is valuable because of land is valuable around here because of what you can do if you have it. You have a front row seat. It's like having courtside seats.
Yep.
Okay. So
to the guy wearing a Celtics shirt, by the way, just so our listeners know, he's going to be using a few ball game examples here. It's courtside seats when you're in LA.
That'll be the last, except the second half of this one. So, but you got courtside seats, but you can still go up to the up to the private booth up there and have and then actually eat the roast beef and have somebody make you a drink. There's that part of it. So really rich people have both. Pretty wealthy people. Rich people might have the courtside seats. Having both is that's the power play, right? Yeah. So again, that's where land is. And if you have land, your land will most likely, unless you're in the middle of nowhere, nothing's changing. But even so, the charts show that all property, doesn't matter where you are, is going to go up because the value of the dollar is going down, so it takes more to buy it. That's it. Yep. There's more dollars out there, so it takes more of them to get the good shit, the shit that means something, because you can't live off of the paper.
So they're not scared of inflation because they have stuff that just responds really well to inflation.
Absolutely.
So they're okay with it being $20 for a loaf of bread because for them they're like, yeah, but my land's just worth that much more. So the $20, it's nothing to notice.
My house is worth all of my assets are now worth 25% more than what they were worth last year. Let's just say.
God, that's a lot of inflation.
For example, if somebody's rich and the dollar inflates by 6%, you go, yeah, keep printing the money.
Yeah. I mean, that's how a lot of real estate investors are. They're like, oh, my apartment building's worth that much more if inflation goes up. The rent goes up. My debt seems that much smaller too, by the way. So if you're leveraged a lot, you're like, oh, I owe $10 million on this thing. $10 million is I owe a lot less, and I'm charging a lot more for rent now, so that they're happy for it.
And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. The cause and effect is so simple. people spend all day looking at Instagram and they see like these islands and it's just like, oh man, if I could only be like here. And it's just like, what are you craving? You're craving land. And then you think you got to hustle for that land. So it's just like, that's what it is. It's not, again, the city's great and maybe you want to be in the center of it all.
Especially after the pandy, dude. Like a lot of people made big decisions for,
if you own your apartment, sure, then yeah, like you've got an asset, like I said. But if you're just
a fat asset. But I'll turn anything into tush talk.
That segues into your sponsor, Tush Talk.
Tush Talk. For the rest of us, for those of us that don't own an island and don't own all that property, all that land, or just people that are concerned with the general well-being of society that don't need to be, isolated or like, I need to have it all. And I don't care what happens to the rest of us, but just in general to the public, like, what does that mean with inflation? So if they're printing up, $5 trillion, which is almost a hard number. I mean, it's not as hard as trying to comprehend like infinity and talking about astrophysics stuff. That's really hard to just sit there and understand beyond linguistics. But like economically speaking, like $5 trillion is hard to imagine because.
Oh yeah. Dude, I mean, the difference between like a millionaire and a billionaire, like people always have to point out like the difference between a billion is like a billion is 999. It's not 100 million. You have to think
of what a million is, and then think of having 1,000 of those, and then think of people that have $10 billion or 20 billion or 50 billion. You're like, what the? Most of them don't have it liquid cash. So I'm sure 99% of them don't have it liquid cash, but it's still a large number to be like, what are you doing with all that? But anyways, go on.
Then that's where we get back to that's the problem with money. So since the dawn of time, there has been no technology that has allowed us to have a peer-to-peer, decentralized. There's not one guy. Even if he's a guy we agree on, it's not one guy. It's a network that has a code, and the code acts in a specific way. It'd be like programming. If you could program a human to do that job, sure. This came first. And so it's a distributed ledger, right? As I think talked about last time, is meaning everybody was the transactions are public. There's the network works in one way and one way only. For the most part, you know what I mean? There's things that can happen where there's voting on the net. Like you need a majority of people. I wouldn't even bother getting into that, but it's never going to change. You know what I mean? The way that it works. That's just in its simplest form. There's the problem. See, most of the time, guilty as well, but like you start talking about Bitcoin, you start talking about like how amazing it is. It's like, well, you got to understand, you can't sell a product unless you've identified the problem that the person has, right? Like, are you having trouble with your blah, 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 blah? Then you need this. Like that's, sales, street sales, television, sales, like these people know how humans work, like in a really simple, basic way. And they're right.
Totally.
Yeah. But it's hard to get people to give a shit about that when they're like, they have other problems, And
I mean, trying to understand money to a lot of people, I think in general, we don't have good attention spans. Just in general in society, the way that we're taught in school, the way that we're taught to be merchants and understand like a system and how to make money on it really quick. And then we're not taught any kind of, and this is just me and like a bigger picture theory on this stuff, but we're not taught about mindfulness and really thinking and like understanding and following through. Like I know when the going gets tough for myself sometimes, I used to really, until I noticed I was doing it, I used to be like, oh, this is hard to understand. Next. And I did that for a large part of my life until actually realizing like and being mindful and be like, oh my God, I'm like avoiding certain things in my life because they're hard. Mm-hmm. And then taking the going ahead, leaning into that has been so rewarding in many times. But I noticed even in talking to some of my family members, it's like, oh, you're not able to like, this is getting boring for you. And you're not able to like fight through the boring stuff to just like keep focused and understand this and make it interesting in your own head. And which is kind of what I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel is make stuff interesting and fun so that you can keep watching and like continue learning this. Don't just give up yet. And with money, it's no exception, and those of us that do take the time to learn this stuff and understand it, I think you're at least somewhat more empowered by it,
Yeah, it's quote Anthony Pompliano, who's like a big guy in the space. Like he says it's just like if you have the educational advantage, then finance comes down to just the educational advantage. That's all it is. It's not, obviously there's a lot of math involved too, but like, basic math, but like just understand, what's happening when and what's causing things to happen. But I mean, that's probably one of the most important things that somebody should know about personal finance. Just what's happening, because if they knew that, then there'd be riots in the streets. There would be riots in the streets if people really knew what was going on. Henry Ford had a quote similar to that, but it's just It's a metaphor or it's literal, however you want to take it. I would hope I think literal, by literal, if people realize we're gonna see 20%. We're gonna see a 20% inflation from last year to next year. You'll see 1 year, 20%. I think you will personally. Because of the numbers. Does it just correlate to directly? It's not a direct correlation. Okay. If they print like 5%, it's not up. You know what I mean? We had. Year after year, it's like 2, but then there's like spikes, and then it was like saying it was going to be like 7% last year, and then now with the second stimulus we're coming on now. Yeah, the second. I think we're on the second or third. Is it? It's the third. Yeah, I think it's the third. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. And it was so sloppily done too that they gave so much to people that is like I appreciate it, but also like I don't need it. Like give it to someone that literally is about to like spend their last dollar on. Well, listen, that's where I say like don't worry about feeling bad about that because of the money they're throwing away. But you're right, you want it to get to those people, but people don't even really understand how the stimulus bill works and how these things happen. So just basic example. Let's just say you're a congressman in California, okay? And so just understand you're there to represent and to do a bunch of things, right? You only got there because a bunch of money got put behind you. Now think about the amount of pressure that your friends give you or your boss or your coworkers or whatever, if they're leaning into you on something, well, that's just the way it is. Like, it's just the way it is. Oh, yeah. So now you are in a district where all of your money came as we're talking about this, Apple News pops up on my phone, and it's just Congress just passed 1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. Jesus Christ! As you and I are talking about it. Yeah. Oh God. So what's going to happen? What happens is this congressman. Let's say he got put in there by like the energy sector, right? There's big energy, whatever it was behind him. So now a stimulus bill is going to be passed, right? Now, you have to understand, this is why we have a lot of, in one way, we have a ton of socialism in this country, is because people expect and they get. And certain people, corporations, groups, they expect and they get because they're all friends, right? If I'm running a comedy show, I'm going to put you on, John, because I know you. You know what I mean? That's likewise. If I have a podcast, you're coming on. Thank you. I'd love to do it sometime. Duly noted. So So it's like I said, energy put this guy there. So what happens is they announce there's going to be a stimulus bill. So what happens is the group that might have dealings with the public sector, with the government, this energy group, they say, well, okay, somehow we took a hit. They don't even really need a reason. They don't even have to even be doing business with the public sector either. But it's what are we going to get out of it? That's just the question. What are we going to get out of it? There's a stimulus going on. What are we going to get out of it? So that congressman has to say, well, geez, I don't know. What do you guys want? So they say this is like what we want, what we expect. They get a rough idea from the top how much money is going to get released roughly. So they kind of know what to ask for. It's a fucking game. So this congressman who wants to get, let's just say it's $100 million, right? Let's say it's $250 million, right? This all adds up around the country, all these different districts. So this guy says, I'm not going to vote for this stimulus bill unless that we get this, our community, right? He'll even say community, even though he's just giving it. He knows it's just going to some other corporate dudes that. It's just But the Goldman Sachs, golden parachutes. Yeah, it's a joke. So he says, I'm not going to vote. So now that's him. Now let's complicate that a little bit. Let's say that he's part of the energy caucus, and there's 25 congressmen who are all in the same caucus that deals with energy. So now he goes to his boy in Arizona, his boy, all around in North Dakota. They say, guess what? we're not voting for this shit unless I get what I want, you get what you want, he gets what he wants, she gets what she wants, and all the way around, right? So now you've got a group of people who are saying, okay, so now this one guy who was worried about 200 million or whatever getting to the energy company in his area, he was worried about that money. Now he almost, and I hate to say he doesn't even have to worry as much now because he's got his whole crew and they're all going to hold out. So then you go to the majority leaders and whatever, you get to the people above them. And I said congressman because it should say senator, whatever. It doesn't even matter. So point is now you've got these whole lumps of mobs, little factions, and they're all going to get what they want because they realize like that's just what it is.
They can, yeah.
So that's why the stimulus bill will pass, and very little money will actually go to people that need it. And also, tax season's coming up. Why not just say no income tax? Why not just say no income tax for everybody who makes under $1 million a year? Just no income tax.
And let them save that money.
You got to print $1,400 per person. Okay, you're going to print $1,400. You're going to make it to give it to them after you take their other money. Well, that's because you will that's leverage so that you can give that money to somebody else. Dude, it's a joke.
That's crazy. So that being a joke, to me, it's like, it's really hard because there's so much human psychology and so much like, individual like stuff going on that it's hard to like really have a full grasp on like, is it good? Is it bad? It's like, it just is. It's like, it's a large system. You have a society, you have a lot of stuff going on, and without pointing any fingers at anyone in particular, there's good people doing good, there's bad people doing bad, and there's people in the middle that are like, don't even know about it or have the abilities to make changes here or there as a whole. So that's going on, and it's going to give us inflation. And then how does that, I'm trying to make it simple for our listeners, how does that affect things like these digital currencies, such as a cryptocurrency named Bitcoin, or
you have people fleeing. You have companies. Since we've talked, a lot's happened. Anybody in like the crypto space probably heard a gentleman by the name of Michael Saylor. He's the CEO of a company called MicroStrategy, or CFO. You might be the CEO. And he is, again, this company is not, it's not an investment group. They're a company, right?
Yeah.
And they had, how many billions of dollars, like I think they had like $2 billion or something like on their balance sheet. And he bought like $500 million worth of Bitcoin because his job is to protect the balance sheet. And he's watching all this printing going on. He's looking to figure out how to hedge the bets. Doesn't want to work with traditional markets. Doesn't want to, so he, becomes a Bitcoin, we'll say maximalist. And he has since, they borrowed, and I've been seeing these numbers almost every day now for months, and I'm blanking. But there's he basically borrowed against the company in convertible notes so that he could buy more Bitcoin. Borrowed it at 0% to buy Bitcoin. I think I don't remember what the term was, like 7 years, 10 years or something. So anyways, the point is he did this, people followed. Tesla followed. In fact, Saylor's the one everybody believes that he might have been the one who helped, help orchestrate the buying of it.
So that was Saylor and Elon, right? That made the big thing that happened, 2 weeks ago?
No, and I don't want to like attribute it just to that. I mean, listen, there's always going to be pumps. It's confidence levels.
Yeah.
If you see how much Bitcoin can move and why it moves, you you look under the hood a little bit, you see that it's not necessarily so much because of these things. It's not like Dogecoin. Which we don't need to talk about. Yeah,
totally. It's so cute, though. I love. Who doesn't love a cute little doggy? But here's a question, though. From a technical aspect, would a company, and I'm just going to use Elon, even though we use Saylor as well, because Elon's just more memorable for everyone. If Elon buys $1 billion in Bitcoin, what is he storing it on? Is he just keeping it in an online account? I mean, like, how is a company safely?
I don't know. I have wondered that. What I believe is that they have several backups of these things. I think that they're spaced out so that, however they're broken down, if it's in cold storage, then it could be, I mean, listen, they got the best guys.
I'm sure they have, the best minds on this stuff. But
no. But I have thought of that as well.
Just so our listeners know, like Bitcoin and these digital currencies, we're still making the transition from like techno nerds to regular square people, and it's not as simple as just it's just kept, you just keep it in your bank account. It's just at Bank of America, and you grab it. It's like it's a little bit different, and a lot of people are using what's called cold storage, which Andrew just mentioned, which is like, imagine, just to make it simple, like a USB card that's best specifically for your digital currencies. So I was asking him about like how these companies are storing them. Imagining putting $50 million on a USB card seems absolutely insane. So,
and the idea behind this is that if it's cold, meaning cold storage, meaning that it's not connected to the internet, there's no signal being sent out. It's yours. You don't have to have anybody hold on to it, which is part of the idea behind crypto. You can keep it on an exchange if you feel like you're novice and you don't want to deal with that. If it's something that you get serious into, it's definitely worth doing. And there's places you can earn interest. You can deposit your crypto into places like this place like BlockFi, and you can earn 10% a year on your crypto, or 6%, depending on what it is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So yeah, people are so yes. Like with what's happening now, I mean, just people are looking for alternative solutions. Of all the money and all the companies sitting around and all their balance sheets, that they're going to be looking for ways. Saylor had a conference, and 1,400 like CEOs and CFOs from the largest companies all came to listen to him talk about why they should do that. 1% of those, do that. That's skewed. 10%. That's 140 companies now decide to come on and just start dumping money. So. And
to me that seems like so interesting, because to anybody that does keep up with Bitcoin just from a layman's standpoint, you'll notice the meme, the general like cultural meme, is like there's a lot of people that are still talking against it that are respected in other ways as investors. So Warren Buffett's like one of the more famous. He's a Coca-Cola guy, but he's like the Coca-Cola of investing. Like when you go, an investor, Warren Buffett over here, like he's just the guy. And he's been bearish on Bitcoin and just digital cryptocurrencies in many interviews. And he also says, like, if I don't understand something, I don't invest in it. So that's one thing where he's like, I don't understand cryptocurrency, so I don't invest in it. But he also says it's not good. So then,
good for him for his career and stuff.
Sure, of course. But all this confidence through all these CEOs and all these trusted people, it feels like we've turned a corner where it's like, if all these people that are in charge of so many big things are saying, hey, this is where I want to like protect my money is in cryptocurrency. I'm like, it doesn't make sense that
that's why you'll hear people saying it's got a better chance of going to 1 million, which it will. Better chance of it going to 1 million than going to 0, because at this point, and again back to that educational advantage, like more now because of the price action. And remind me to talk about like why you shouldn't worry about the actual price of Bitcoin. But people have been reaching out, asking, hey, what's up with Bitcoin? Do you own a yacht yet? And it's just like, no. The one thing I keep saying is like, the reason that I've been confident since 2019, again, we talked last time, looked into it, got into it a little bit, didn't really get into it deep until, the second wave, around when my personal second wave. Around early 2019, that's when I did a deep dive, evaluated the whole space, said, I'm in my 30s. I'm going to do this. This is where I'm going to, put a little money. And then since then, just been slowly, converting my cash that I have, my savings, into Bitcoin. And it's up. I don't need to tell you it's up. We just cracked 57,000 since we've been on the all-time highs. We'll probably see 60,000 in the next few days. And then it kind of like it eases off. It's almost like a tide. Like it kind of like washes back out again. You can feel the emotions of people pulling back. Yeah, you're gonna have people buying in. You're gonna have people like shorting. You're gonna have like miners and different people, flooding the exchanges so that the price goes down, and they'll have a bunch of shorts in. So there's like minor manipulation that can minor as in small and minor as in the miners that can go on. Oh, okay. I thought you meant like Bitcoin miners. So yeah, no, both really. Okay, but I guess it's major manipulation when you look at some of the numbers. But listen, if you're not a trader, you don't have to worry about it. find another asset that you can put $1,000 into, and then figure that like in 10 years, it's in 5 years, it can 10x. Where are you going to get 10x? You're lucky if you get 6% on some of these things.
Well, how does it work though? Like, so if it's
think about that, and you've got to hedge against inflation. So if you make 7-8% on your money, big deal, big deal. All you did was hedge against the inflation.
Yeah, you didn't profit. You didn't, actually make money on your money. I've listened to a few people tell me recently that like really making money means doubling your money every 5 years, and it's like that's like 20% a year, right? That's like a pretty big. So you can't be excited about 10%, 12% returns or something. Like, no, you need like 20% or something. Like, geez, that's difficult. I mean, you can find it in some real estate syndications. It's hard to find for non-accredited people sometimes that don't have a ton of money to throw at something. But yeah, like what you just said, like you need to do a lot more than a few percent to just keep up with inflation. But so you mentioned, okay, Bitcoin, let's say hypothetically, which sounds very boner inducing, that it gets to $1 million of Bitcoin, right? Like, oh my gosh, that'd be crazy, right? It's exciting for a lot of people because you could be listening to this right now and be like, I haven't bought any Bitcoin. And it's like, you're not too late. You didn't, I mean, theoretically, you're not too late.
No.
Who knows?
No. It's 1997. Internet 97. That's where we are. That's
really, yeah. And it seems like we're past that because we're like, dude, if it's $50,000, like there's no way it could go up. But it seems like you're saying, it really could keep going. But let's say it goes to $1 million, Andrew. Then if it goes to $1 million, but then the dollar is so inflated, what's $1 million worth in Bitcoin? Is it still like, I can only buy a loaf of bread with my Bitcoin?
Listen, that's definitely one of those things where you start to look at it and you're like, well, yeah, by then I'm not going to want to sell my Bitcoin because the Bitcoin is just going to be. What happens is you have like you have like a loop effect there where it's going to a positive feedback loop where you're going to have people continuing to buy Bitcoin because of what you're saying is happening. Therefore inflating the price, and then eventually maybe one day we'll just be dealing in Satoshis. Every Bitcoin is 100 million Satoshis. So again, you don't have to worry about being late. If you don't own that's the worst thing you can do. There are people who felt like they missed it at 1,000.
Oh yeah.
There's people who felt like they missed at 10,000 and 20,000 and 30,000. And I've watched people say, hey, I'm going to wait for it to take a dip. I know 2 people who said at 20,000.
Hey, baby. Hey, come say hi to Andrew. He wants to say hi.
Oh, no problem.
Come on, baby.
I don't know where that.
You can wear it. Say hi to Andrew.
There he is. Goldilocks. Look at those things.
Say hi, baby.
Hey.
Say hi. Wave to him.
What a head of hair. What a head of hair.
Oh, dude. He's so cute.
Killing it, kid.
Okay, say bye-bye, baby.
I don't know where it.
No, you gotta wear it now. You gotta go down for your schlep.
Say goodnight.
Say goodnight. Say bye to Andrew. Whoa! You got cute.
That kid's a spokesperson for Bitcoin right there.
He really is. He's an entertainer. He's such a goofball. I'm like, oh my God. Keep that kid away from the drugs and get him into a good square lifestyle. Let him do stand-up at night or something like that. I'm like, he's going to be asking for money so soon. Dad, I'm an actor. I just need one. I need like one Satoshi to get through the week. Dad, please. Sorry, I had to cut you off. He loves to jump in right before his.
No, of course you gotta. You're kidding, man. But yeah, but just you're not too late. I know people at 20,000. They're like, nah. Somebody told me it's gonna go back down to 10, and then I went to 30, and it was just like, and it's just like kicking himself, and it's just like it became a joke.
Well, another thing is, I think a lot of people don't know this about Bitcoin. When we're talking about like a Bitcoin being worth $50,000 or $1 million or whatever else, it's broken up into smaller units, the Satoshis within the Bitcoin. So I was just telling my sister-in-law the other day, I was like, it doesn't mean she was thinking, just assuming, and no fault to her, common sense. She said, oh, so then I couldn't afford a Bitcoin. And I was like, no, you can buy a portion of a Bitcoin. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, it's 50K though, so it's too late for me to buy it because I don't have 50K. It's like, no, you can go right now to an exchange and buy $1 worth or $5 or whatever else. You're going to pay a little fee for transaction. So you can do that, or your friend can send you can have a friend like from their phone send you a link with, a couple dollars of Bitcoin. So you don't have to buy the $50,000. You can buy $100 right now and start investing in it. Oh, we got another little guest, my fluffy bushy. It's going to be like a friggin' talk show with Themeles. Just like, and who's coming next to sit on the dais? My fluffy cat. So. Nice. So that should be encouraging if you're listening and you're like, oh man, I missed my window. Like, no,
I have friends who bought $500 worth, and set buys. I have a friend who he made one buy, I think, for like $500,000. This was back in like December, and then he set buys $200 a month, and that 500, I think he's already almost 2.5x. And it's just like, you can go, oh, that's not, I'm not rich there. That's like somebody just paid your rent, man. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like in savings. So
yeah, no, man, it's exciting. So pound for pound, if we do have some sort of crazy inflation, now I'm just hoping, even at the cost of Bitcoin not being worth a ton of money, I don't want a crazy amount of inflation because I just don't want to see, people freaking out and being upset, because I feel like I had enough of that this year for a lifetime for myself, just for my emotions connected to society. Just being like, I hate seeing people. I don't like seeing pitchforks and just angry people, because I'm like, I just want to ride my bike around and smile at like dogs. I don't want people to be upset, but
not to say that Bitcoin solves that, but I mean, listen, again, it's like people who have money aren't, as angry. It's like,
no, I know. I mean, rightfully so. That's just the nature of it. But so for something, I think that's,
not that, by the way, not that people who don't have money aren't happy. I'm just saying, like, that's what causes like, general turmoil.
You're definitely like more pacified if you can afford some like pumpkin pie when you're stressed out, versus like, I'm just stressed out and I can't afford to eat. Like, there's a different level of like, eat the rich versus like the rich being like, well, I don't want to eat anybody. I mean, I'll still have a steak, but maybe retire with a 6-bedroom home instead of a 12-bedroom home. But my thing is, do you think with the inflation, and this is bigger than Bitcoin, what I'm asking you now, do you think that with society going into these kind of inflation things, that there's a possibility for like a soft landing being a topic for society crashing, people being like, if civilization goes down or if the dollar crashes, it's going to be awful. And I've heard other people say like, well, there can also be, like, I'm a huge fan of Andrew Yang, and he's very much into, just giving people money because the government's already spending it, just hand the money out and solve some people's problems. Mm-hmm. And I is there like soft landing where it's like, okay, like the dollar is not what it used to be, but Bitcoin and other digital currencies take its place and we're still able to function? Because I'm thinking literally about Mad Max versus like a cohesive, friendly society, right? That's really what it comes down to me. I'm a camper. Like, all I care about is like, do I have shelter and some level of safety and food? Then I'm happy. And I mean, everything else is extra. Like, do I want a yacht? Sure. I would love to party on a yacht. Do I want my own like airplane or spaceship one day? That'd be freaking great. But I'm also just like, if I can just, have some carne asada and not feel like people are trying to rape and pillage my family, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be the hard crash that, like, it's, I would say, not that it's fun, but that the imagination can take you to. But are
you going to be safe living in LA, an apartment, if the dollar goes to nothing? Or is it like, oh no, they're just going to be like going through buildings looking for people to eat?
I don't know that we're going to be at cannibalism within my lifetime.
Oh, within your lifetime. He's going the Rick and Morty route. Oh, we'll be at cannibalism, just in some other dimension or far in the future.
Yeah. Do you think that
there will be at cannibalism?
Yeah.
No, but I generally, in all fairness, I wonder about, like, I'm an optimist and I'm a pretty positive person, and I'm pretty sensitive to like my own suffering and other people's suffering, and especially like hardcore mental or hardcore physical abuse, like, just makes me like sick to my stomach to even think that people go through that, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if that is me being realistic about the future. Like, when I hear someone go super negative about it, I'm just like, are they being more realistic? And I'm just delusional because that's my, like how religious people are, where you're like, do you really believe that bullshit? Oh no, you've convinced yourself that so that you can get out of bed and safely like go take care of like your life goals. Because if you didn't think that God was watching over everything you did and protecting you and affecting this realm, you would be in a state of terror and shock, and you wouldn't be able to just take a dump and wipe your own ass. And I'm like, am I the same way, just being an optimist? Like, we're not having that happen. I have faith in people. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I do, but I don't think I don't think it gets to that.
I'm scratching a cat butt right now. That's why you see this.
Yeah, it looks like the plume of a pen. It's just a cat tail.
Oh yeah, dude. And when they walk away like a French Pepe Le Pew.
The listeners love the cat talk.
Oh, dude. I didn't say that we have anything about any skills with momentum in this podcast. I'll let them know that.
But yeah, I think that's just, again, it's just educational advantages. Like, look into it, understand these things, understand that, that everything you do in your day, your time is money, and you should care about where that money comes from, how that money's circulated, who controls the money, who changes what that money does, because it literally affects lives. Like, people can't spend time with their children because they lost a job because the economy got shut down or something. You know what I mean? Like, this shit's real, and people just want to stand on their principles. And it's just like, all right. Also remember, it's the jungle, and people need to take care of themselves.
They gotta take care of themselves. I mean, yeah, this is just a very, very advanced form of the jungle. Yeah, it's you know where you are. You're in the jungle, baby.
Is that the new name of the podcast?
Hopefully you're not going to die. That's my version of it. You're going to have to get through some tough stuff, but you'll be all right. A little bit more optimistic than Axel. You're going to put through some challenges, but it's going to be fine.
Optimistic Axel, yeah.
That's right. Optimistic Axel.
Motivational Axel.
Yeah. So, you mentioned other coins too. So we're talking about Bitcoin. What's going on with other coins that you're a fan of? So
I like Ethereum. I think Ethereum, if you're listening to this before April, I mean, no, I'm not saying that, but I think we're going to see soon. It's looking like it's about to make a big move, but I think Ethereum's a 5-digit coin by the end of this run, which would 5x it easily. I think it can actually go way higher than that. Some people I trust, and I've seen the reasons why, say closer to 50,000, which would be an incredible gain. That'd be a 25x. Yeah, I like
50,000 with it is going to top out at 50,000, or like in the near future when we say numbers like that.
This year.
Oh wow, 2021, 50,000 for Ethereum. Yeah. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
That would be.
And again, that's just the money. That's just the price action. As far as Ethereum, as the network goes, there's a lot. They just voted on an upgrade in July. They're going to start burning part of the supply to pay for fees.
Okay, so what does that mean? Let's slow down for our listeners.
We don't have time for that. I don't think we have time for that.
Okay.
It's too much. So
let's do it for another episode. That's just another excuse for me to get to sit down with you, which is
we'll do Ethereum next month.
Dude, we should be hanging out soon. We're getting through this pandy, dude. We're getting through it.
Polkadot is another really good project. It's a multi-chain platform like Ethereum. See, that's why it's so hard to talk about this stuff. Because here's the thing: it's like music. Like I understand music, right? If I look at a sheet of like charts, and I look at the music, and I'm like, oh, this is like a really like intense jazz song. Like there's a lot of changes, a lot of shit. I see it, I get it, but I'm not like sitting here like I don't understand it. Like, oh, like this right here, he went, it shifted, went modal on the second verse. I'm not going to see that. But I do understand how it works, and that's kind of what
You're a very humble Zappa, because I know you understand it. I know you feel.
But that's what it is with all these projects. So Polkadot, people are talking about Cardano a lot because it went from like 30 cents to $1.29. It's now trading at $1.16 or something. But that's another project where they're looking to bring banking to like Ethiopia. As well as creating like an Ethereum smart contract chain, which it doesn't do smart contracts yet, which is all this stuff is
it's an hour of talk just
it's too much.
Blockchains and smart contracts is a whole other
inflation, Bitcoin.
No, I think this is good, man. And you were able to give us
let's talk deeper on this stuff next time.
I hope our listeners really enjoy that.
Yeah, buy a little Ethereum, guys. Buy a little Bitcoin. If you got a few bucks, just download one of those apps. Buy it. Don't do it on Robinhood. Not just out of principle, but also because you don't own it. Coinbase is the big one. You can, as long as it's custodian, as long as you can hold your own stuff. But yeah, thanks for having me,
dude. Thank you so much for making the time to do this. Where do you want people to follow you on your
at Themeles, if anybody gives a shit.
The best plugs ever. If anyone gives a shit, follow Themeles.
Dude,
Thanks for making time to do this.
No, thank you for having me. It's 5x. The next time I talk to you, I think we might see $100,000 Bitcoin. I'll come back for 100,000.
Insane. That would be insane. You're coming back before 100,000, unless, God willing, there are 100,000 in a couple days.
Yeah.
It's great, dude. Thanks for sharing that. I hope our listeners got some good stuff out of it. And let's continue with Ethereum and blockchain ledger and all that good stuff soon.
Perfect, man. Love it.